Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, and as of right now, Greece has imposed capital controls. Basically, you are going to be restricted to 60 euros per day withdrawal limit from your bank accounts. You're not going to be allowed to close your accounts, get your money out. You're not going to be allowed to transfer your money from your Greek bank to a foreign account either. All of these things are things that we've talked about before. I've recommended actually doing all of these things which you're not allowed to do as of right now. I've recommended doing them, opening a foreign bank account, putting your money there. As of right now, no longer possible. Still, I do have a few tips. I mean, basically, this is what we saw in Argentina back then. It's pretty much a carbon copy of the events in which they are unfolding. Basically, there's really not much of a choice but to go into a bank holiday, because if not, last few months, billions have left Greek banks. So with a potential default looming even the same week, as soon as Tuesday, if you try to look at the both possible scenarios. Hopefully things will not will turn out okay, and Greece will not default, will not leave the European Union, and things will get back on track. But you also have to look at the reality of what it is right now, and there's a pretty strong possibility, a pretty big possibility that Greece may not have any other choice but to default on its debt, leave the European Union, start with a new currency of their own. So a few pieces of advice if you haven't taken the ones I've given before. Let's suppose knowing what I know about going through pretty much this same thing. Let's suppose I wake up tomorrow in the shoes of a Greek citizen. What is it that I would do? Well, first of all, number one, I would go to the ATM and get my 60 euros of the day. In Argentina, you basically did that. Whatever limit you had, you just made the most of it. You went, you found an ATM, you drove around a little bit until you found one, and got your allowance for the day, and start piling it up in case you needed money for some emergencies. It's not always easy, especially the ATMs that are in strategic locations where most people know of them and make often use of them. Maybe those are going to be the first ones to run out of money. Try some of the less known ATMs where you haven't seen a lot of people before using them. Chances are those still have some money. Getting up early in the morning, you have a better chance of finding it, and little by little you start learning things. Living this way for some time, you will start understanding when is it that ATMs are topped up with money and such, when you can expect to find it. So I would do that. I would definitely look into having a plan for the day and getting whatever limit you're allowed. If you don't have any precious metals, I think it's a good idea to have them as well, in case of a worst case scenario where even let's suppose Greece leaves the European Union, you no longer use the euro and you start with a new currency. In that case, the euro would be highly regarded within Greece as the stronger as a stronger currency that still has more value than the new. Because as soon as something like this happens, guys, as soon as Greece, let's suppose worst case scenario, as soon as Greece leaves the European Union, drops the euro, starts with their own drachma or whatever local currency of their own, you're going to be having massive inflation. This new currency born in the middle of an economic collapse will be pretty weak. With a weak currency, you will have inflation. You will have people, on the side, on the black market, buying still with euros. Now, in an even worse scenario, even worse than that, you would have an impact of Greece leaving the European Union, having a ripple effect and affecting the euro as well. And causing it to lose value as well. In that case, in the worst case scenario, then gold and silver, precious metals, those would be your safest bet. Moving on to number 2, the second thing that I would be doing right after I wake up early in the morning, go to the ATM, get my limit out, is I would go with my credit card, debit card to a grocery store and top up my shopping cart with food. I would buy a lot of food as of tomorrow. So tomorrow I get up early in the morning, get the money, and with a plastic card I would go and buy a good amount of food. Food, you can never have too much of it because you're going to be eating it anyway. No matter what happens, end of the world or not, you're going to be eating unless you're dead, in which case you're not going to be caring anymore. You know what I mean? Yes, I would definitely go and buy a good amount of food, something that is, what kind of foods, the stuff that we always talk about is food that is shelf stable, that doesn't need refrigeration, hopefully, pasta, rice, beans, canned food, also stuff for the fridge as well, part of your normal groceries. But I would make sure I have a good amount of food in case things get a little bit more complicated than they already are. You can have a little bit of civil unrest, you can have problems with resupply of food in the middle of the economic problem, depending on food that is imported, the food that is being provided. You have to understand that it's a very complex situation. On one hand, you have many food items that are imported from the European Union, but also you have locally produced foods. But at the same time, the producers may be holding on, maybe waiting to see what happens before they supply to see if they're going to be losing money or not. As long as you have the products, you have something. Once you sell it, no one wants to sell in the middle of a default. It's kind of a shaky position to be in. So yes, tomorrow I would wake up, get money, get food. Third tip, little piece of advice, as someone that has gone through a pretty similar circumstance, I would find a good place to hide your cash. If you don't have any right now, you are going to be having eventually, because little by little you'll start getting your 60 euros a day and you will have a little bit more cash in your house. This is exactly what you should be doing, because if something happens, an emergency of any kind, and given how shaky the bank situation is, you are going to be depending a lot of on cash. Greece is going to be, will become, this is pretty much a certainty, more of a cash society than it already is, depending on that. So when everyone understands that people are keeping money in their houses, this has already been happening in Greece for quite some time. What I mean is just that it's going to be getting even worse in that regard. It's going to be even more understood that folks are not keeping their money in the banks, they're keeping it cash at home, and with that means that home invasions, robberies, and theft will be more of a problem. So get yourself a good place. If you can, get yourself a small safe, hide it in a good place in your house. You know your house better than anyone else. And make sure you have a good spot for keeping your cash. Don't just have it in a drawer or under under the famous mattress. Number 4, and yes, always thinking of things that we've seen in Argentina as well, and clearly enough they can end up happening in Greece as well. Avoid participating in protests and in demonstrations, either against the government, against banks, against whatever. It's very tempting to do so, make your voice heard and such, but usually these are the places where bad things happen. These are the places where there's riots, where people get shot, where people get hurt, where even to a degree, and it's not about being paranoid, but we know that these are the places where people are even filmed if things turn to worse in a from a political stance and such. Play it, be the gray man in this situation, be the person that goes by. And it's not just about public demonstrations and protests and such. It's about socially as well, in your daily interactions with people. You have to learn to keep your mouth shut. One of the things I've noticed all over Europe in general is that people are very trusting. And that's fantastic, that's great, and it's very nice. But people are that way because they're not used to living in a more violent, more dangerous society. And this is exactly what you're going to be seeing in Greece. You're going to be seeing a more violent, a more dangerous society. Violence because all the crap that's happening right now, it's going to be stressing you, it's going to be affecting you. It's not affecting you, just you, it's affecting everyone else. So everyone's going to be more on the edge, prone to violence. It's going to be happening. The economic problem also has a social impact as well. With more poverty, you will have more violence, more crime on the streets. Especially when everyone knows that people are keeping money in the houses instead of the banks. So keep your mouth shut about that as well. Don't talk with even people that you trust, even people that you've known for years. Don't go opening your mouth saying, yes, because I keep X amount of money in my house. Yes, because I'm piling up cash in my home because I saw a guy on YouTube suggest me to do so. Loose lips sink ships. Yeah, they also get you shot as well. That would be my my contribution to that saying. You would probably another piece of advice would be look into improving your home security as well, quite a bit. If you don't have a house alarm, you should be getting one. If you don't have a firearm, look into getting one as well. Don't go nuts, but these are all little things that you should have done before. If you haven't done so before, at least you can do them now. These are the things that you can at least do now, unlike getting your money to an account in another country, which is no longer a possibility, or closing your account and getting more of your cash out, no longer a possibility. These are things that you can still do. So yes, I would definitely look into getting a firearm for self-defense in Greece. Finally, point number 5, and as always, and this is a pretty common piece of advice as part of general preparedness, in talking in general, have an exit plan. Have a plan to leave Greece if it ever gets to that point. I know that lots of folks have left Greece already, as it happened in many countries in Europe that have gone through tough times. Happened in Spain, in Ireland as well. Portugal, folks that when their particular countries are in bad shape, they start moving around. It's pretty easy, guys, you folks watching this in the United States, it's very easy in Europe to move around because of the European Union. You just settle you have the same rights as any other citizen. It basically means it's very easy to move around and such. Of course, if Greece does leave the European Union, that may no longer be the case. This only means that you have to have a very sincere conversation with yourself, with your family, the people in your life, and decide what to do. Maybe decide what to do right now. If you have already been considering leaving, maybe this is the time before that door is closed permanently for you. As of right now, still as an European Union citizen, you have the right to go anywhere in Europe, settle as a citizen. Once Greece leaves, that's no longer a possibility. Have an exit plan. In that case, have an exit plan if you may end up deciding to do this in the future, understanding that it could be quite limited, the window of opportunity. And of course, yes, if you want to learn a little bit more about what happens when an economy collapses, my book, The Modern Survival Manual, Surviving the Economic Collapse, which I think is pretty relevant for anyone in Greece as of right now. If you haven't read it, yeah, guys, only in English. So yeah, hopefully, I wish I had a Greek version for you, but I don't. This is the only thing that I have. The link is going to be available in Amazon below, and I think that, yeah, you would definitely make good use of this if you are in Greece, because it's not the end of the world or anything, but it becomes a little bit of a more difficult reality. You can still live your life quite well. I know I did in Argentina for many years, in spite of a full-blown economic collapse and everything going to hell. But any advice that you can get, all the precautions you can get, it becomes a less forgiving reality, if there's a way of putting it. But still life goes on. That's going to be all for now. Share with folks that may make good use of this video. Thumbs up, likes and such. Take care. See you on our next video. Have a great day.